There's a few things that might be happening. We're seeing increasing challenges from environmental groups to hydrocarbon developments, and that tends to focus on the OGA's decision making when it's approving new developments. So I think that looks as if that's going to continue and probably increase, so that there will be ever greater scrutiny of the decision making function that the OGA carries out in that regard. And I think we're also beginning to see, after years of very little use of their sanction powers, a ramping up in the OGA's use of its powers to investigate what it thinks might be breaches of the MER UK regime and to impose sanctions. And I think we're going to continue to see that activity increase, as I think the OGA feels that the industry's now had quite long enough to understand how MER UK works and what their responsibilities and role in that framework are, and they're now starting to hold people to account very clearly on those compliance issues. So I think we're going to see a growing bank of decisions from them, forcing the industry to comply increasingly with the regulations that are being imposed on them.
I think the other thing we'll see is the OGA's remit, its jurisdiction expanding, and it taking more of a role in relation to the low carbon projects in the North Sea around CCUS and hydrogen. The sort of regulatory regimes for those are still being written. There's a lot of consultation going on, and quite what role the OGA will have is still under debate, but it's almost certainly going to grow. And I'm sure that I agree with Valerie, they're definitely getting tougher, but I'm sure that their sort of balanced carrot and stick approach will continue, and they'll remain primarily a facilitator, and they'll keep producing a lot of very useful information for companies in the sector, showing them what other companies have done and giving them examples of good practice. That culture, I think, was very firmly established under Andy Samuel, who wrote our foreword. But I think it's almost certainly going to continue under his successor, Stuart Payne, who's very similar, I think, in his approach. So I'm sure they'll come up with new guidance and new initiatives. So sooner or later, I'm sure there'll be scope for a second edition of the book.